Okay, our second project that we're going to be working on is called Drawing a Still Life. And if you haven't already figured it out, it's almost Christmas time. So here I am with my reindeer antlers and my Christmassy sweatshirt. Okay, so a couple of things that we like to talk about when we're talking about drawing a still life. We are talking about parts of the brain and different ways your brain has developed and your drawing skills have developed. Okay, so parts of the brain we're going to go over. It says your brain is divided into two halves, the left side and the right side. Each side is responsible for different tasks as shown in the graphic. If you look over here, the left brain is analytic, it's reasoning, there's a lot of numbers, control, it's strategic, realistic. And then your right brain is more creative, passionate, intuitive. You know, if you are somebody that is artistic, your right brain is probably more in control of your artistic side. Okay. Your left brain controls the right side of the body, and your right brain controls the left side of the body. So it's opposite. Okay. Let's see, your left brain is more analytical, rational, and logical, while your right brain is more creative, spatial, and analogic. Okay. So in your developmental stages from infancy on up to where you are now, your drawing development has gone through different stages. Okay. The first stage is in infancy. It's called the scribbling stage, and it begins as random marks, but soon takes on definite shapes. The circle is the most basic and natural shape. If you've ever given an infant a crayon or something to draw with, they don't have very good motor skills and they just scribble. Okay. The second stage is the symbol stage. This is infancy to 4 years old. So it kind of, evolves from infancy to about 4 years. Child uses a circle shape to represent most things. Imagery becomes more complex. They're more aware of details, and a child refines drawing through repetition. So here are some examples of what the symbol stage is. Excuse me. Okay, the storytelling stage, that's 4 to 5 years old. Children begin to use drawing to work out problems and tell stories. So here are a couple of examples. Obviously, somebody wasn't feeling this person. Okay, and the landscape stage, 5 to 10 years old. This is where children develop a set of symbols to create a landscape. Children have a good sense of balance and composition. So you can see that now we have ground, we have trees growing from the ground, the sky goes all the way down to the ground, sun in the corner, that's always going to be a thing. And the complexity stage is right around 10 years old. Children try for more detail and realism at this age. So they're seeing that there's these nuances that they need to translate into their drawing, and they try. The realism stage, 11 years and up. This is where children have a passion for realism but have a hard time achieving it, may become frustrated and give up, or continue trying. So this is the stage in life where you said to yourself, either I'm pretty good at this, I'm going to keep trying, I want to get better at this, I'm going to keep trying, or I'm not that good at this, I'm not going to keep trying. All right, so here are a few examples of how it evolved. Okay. So what we're going to talk about is we're going to do a couple of drawing exercises that kind of help us go through switching our left brain to our right brain to help us with our drawing and to help our drawing progress a little bit better. In order to draw realistically, we need to switch from the left mode of thinking to the right. The following drawing exercises, why did that work? Okay. The following exercises can help us make the switch. Try each in your sketchbook along with the videos and turn it in for credit. So you're going to see that there is a video highlighted under each one of these specific drawing exercises, and it tells you right here how many of them you're going to do in your sketchbook. Every time you see one of these drawing exercises, it tells you how many to do, and you're going to watch a video to go with it. This is something you're going to be turning in, and it is part of your grade. Okay, so the vase face drawing, you're going to try one of these. It says, draw a simple profile. Okay, so it's a person's profile, the side view of that person's face. After you've drawn the simple profile, step 2 says, add a straight line coming out from the top and the bottom of that profile. Number 3 says draw the mirror image of that profile, so facing inward, okay, on the other side. What's going to happen as you do this, it says when you draw the first profile, your left brain is recalling symbols and features of the face. When you begin with the mirror image side, your right brain takes over, seeing lines, shapes, and spatial relationships instead of those facial features. You're going to find that it feels very awkward and different to do the mirror image side than it did to do the simple profile side. Okay, and here are a few examples. And they call it a vase face because it's faces that make up a vase shape in between. Okay. The second one is a blind contour drawing. This is something you're going to try 3 of these. It says another exercise to help you make the shift from left mode of thinking to right mode is the blind contour drawing. Blind contour is where you draw while looking at the object you're drawing, but not at your paper. Yeah, you heard that right. You're going to draw the object on paper, say over here, and you're going to look at the object you're drawing and not look at your paper. Okay? While this will not give you a realistic rendering of the object, which means it's not going to look just like the object, it's going to resemble it a little bit, but it's not going to look exactly right. It will force you to study the intimate details of the object. Therefore, you will be thinking of lines and spatial relationships instead of the symbol your brain has stored for that object. Again, watch the video to see how this is done. And here are 2 examples. One thing you have to remember when doing a blind contour, the contour is the outline or edge. So when doing a blind contour, you are drawing all the details of the outline of the object. Every line, every bump, every lump, every blemish, every detail. And you're doing it with one continuous line. And you're drawing an outline. Okay. The next drawing exercise is called the positive negative space drawing. You're going to try one of each of these, and you're going to watch the video to show you how. Positive negative space drawing is, we went over this for the last project. Positive space is the space you're actually taking up with your drawing, and the negative space is the space around the object, okay? Here is it in a little more detail when we're talking about one specific object. Positive space is the actual object or objects you're drawing. Negative space is the air around the object. Notice this has detail, this has shading. You can see lines crossing over other lines. In this, you can't see things crossing over things. You can't really tell which one is in front and which one is in the back. So basically, it's like a ghost image, like the image was taken away and all that I have left is this black area. Okay. The last one is a gesture drawing. You're going to try 4 of these because what I would like you to do is I want you to work up and get faster, okay? Gesture drawing is a very quick method of recording someone's position or gesture. They're usually done in less than a minute. So what you're going to do is you're going to try to get this timed so that you can see if you can do this faster and faster and faster each time, all right? Gesture drawings should not take longer than 1 minute, okay? If they take longer than a minute, you're doing them wrong, okay? It says they're done in less than a minute, and since the time is so short, there's no time to do a full-on contour. Meaning, I don't have time for detail. I don't have time for the outline. All I have time is for a stick figure standing in a space showing me which position they're standing in. You're not interested in details. You're just recording the position quickly. Gesture drawings are usually done of people. The easiest way to start out one is using the stick method. So if you look here, it shows you this person is done using a gesture drawing method. We've got the head, we've got the shoulders, the arms, we've got little shapes for hands, we've got the backbone, the hips, legs, knees, and feet, okay? Understand that once you start out with that stick person and you've got that position, then what you're going to do is you're going to start fleshing it out, okay? Here are a few examples of what I mean. You start out with these very basic stick figures, And then you start adding shape to it. You start adding the actual width of the legs and, you know, the width of the arms and all of that. You start fleshing it out is what it's called. Okay. And so here's another example of how we've done a 10-second gesture, a 30-second gesture, and a 2-minute gesture. You see how you can get more detail the longer the time. I want you to try this backwards so that you can work up to faster. Okay. And my suggestion is to find somebody, you know, in your house, like, you know, sit in the kitchen while your parents are cooking dinner or something, or while one of your siblings is playing. Watch what they're doing and do gestures of them. Okay. You can also do gestures of still life items, like items sitting in your house. But I want your exercises to be gesture drawings of people. Okay. So what you guys are going to be working on is a still life drawing. And in order to do this still life drawing, there's a couple of tasks and a couple of, not tasks, a couple of little things that you're going to need to know in order to be successful here. Okay, so blocking in is one way that I always, anytime I'm starting a drawing, I always start with a blocking in step. Okay, and my blocking in step is very gestural, meaning it's going to look very quick. Okay, blocking in, it says when drawing a still life for any group of objects, it is important to correctly judge spatial relationships and size proportions. The most effective way to do this is blocking in. Draw the basic shapes of each object lightly on your paper to check sizes and placement. This will save a lot of time erasing and moving around once you begin to add detail. It's important to check the sizes of the object relating to other objects during this step. Be sure that you use the basic shapes and not contours. So if you look here, this is an example of what a still life looks like. This is an example of how that person has blocked them in. We've represented everything here in the picture using simple shapes, circles, squares, rectangles, triangles, okay? Figured out where everything goes, how everything is placed, and then we can use that to then refine our drawings, okay? But a couple of things to keep in mind. I'm gonna actually zoom out a little bit. This is enormous. So a couple of things to keep in mind when doing a still life drawing or any drawing of objects. There are 3 important parts to drawing that still life. And we call this the hop, okay? Hierarchy, okay, that's the H in hop, is where objects that are closer to the viewer are lower on the paper, okay? Overlap, which is the O in hop. Overlap is where objects that are closer to the viewer overlap objects that are behind them. So if I put my hand here and I put my cup behind it, the thing that's closer to the viewer is covering up the thing that's further back. Proportion, last one. Really look at the objects that really look at the objects and make sure that they are in proportion to each other. So is one object half as tall as another? Is another object 3 times as wide? Compare the objects to each other, okay? And there's a video of me doing this in the next step, okay? Adding detail and shading is going to be the last thing that you'll do. So once you've blocked in and you've figured out the hop, okay, then you'll start adding detail and shading. It says, after blocking in, you need to refine your drawing. This means to perfect the shaping and contours. That means the outline, remember? Once you have this done, you can begin to shade, all right? Then we're going to talk about different types of shading. Okay, you've got 4 different ways you can shade. Most of you use this method, tone, which is basically coloring with your pencil. But there are other ways that you can shade, and I just wanted to kind of point those out because you're going to have to try them all on a worksheet. All right, first one is hatching, or sometimes we call that line density. It's where we have lines that are just kind of going in one direction, and they are darker and more closer together to achieve darker areas, and they space out further apart to appear lighter. Cross hatching, similar. This is where we hatch in one direction and then we crisscross in another direction. It is not scribbling. It is not X's. It is basically just doing it in different directions to achieve shading. Tone, like I said, is coloring with your pencil, pressing harder down here for darker, easing up here for lighter. And then pointillism is tiny little dots of color concentrated together to look darker, spread out further apart to look light. All right, 6 steps of shading. If you look at any sort of three-dimensional object, you're going to see these areas are going to be things that are going to jump out at you. So when you're drawing your still life, consider these steps and how your lighting is affecting these objects. All right. First thing you'll see is a light source in the picture. You'll see that the thing that is facing that light source will have what's called a highlight. It'll be this like white spot. Now, I know you've all drawn balloons in your lifetime where you have this circle on the paper and you draw this little triangle at the top. Ooh, I have a highlight. That's exactly what a highlight is. It's where the light is hitting the object and creating an area of white. Okay? The next section is the area of light. This is where the light is hitting the object and showing you its truest color. What color is it? Is it red? Is it an apple? The next area is where it starts to turn away from that light source and gets a little darker, and it's called the shadow. Next area turns away from the light a little bit more. It's called the core of shadow, which is the darkest it's going to get. The next section is a little bit lighter than the core of shadow, and it's kind of a sliver here at the bottom of the object, and it's called reflected light. It's where light is bouncing off the table surface and bouncing back up onto that object and creating this little sliver of light, okay? And then the last thing here is the shadow that is being cast by the object that is blocking the light, and that's called the cast shadow, okay? Couple of things to keep in mind. A value scale, very, very important for this project. And you are going to have to try one on your own. There are some worksheets in your packet too. One is called a value scale worksheet. The other is called the shading worksheet. Okay, you're going to have to try the methods of shading on the shading worksheet. You're going to have to do a value scale exercise on the value scale worksheet. Value scale is a scale from light to dark, okay, and it is represented in pencil grays. Basically, the dark area is as dark as you can get your pencil to color. Then you ease up, ease up, ease up, and you lighten as you go. It's basically showing me how many different grays you can get using your pencil and how you can change those grays with the pressure that you're putting on your pencil. Okay, so what is this project? The project objective is choosing from one of the following photographs. You are going to create a still life drawing that looks as close to the original as possible. Use the blocking in method, the hop, perfect the placement, refine the contours, and add local tone. And what local tone is basic value. The last step is to utilize shading techniques and value scales, okay? Here are two examples of this project. This one much lighter than this one, but you can see that basically this is a drawing in pencil of an arrangement of objects, and you colored it with your pencil. Okay, imagine your eyes are seeing it in a black and white photograph form. How would you translate that to a piece of paper with a pencil? Okay, and again, I'm going to demonstrate this so you're not completely left to the wolves. All right, here is photo number 1. You can choose this one to draw, or photo number 2. You could choose this one. Either one is fine with me, you decide. Okay. The supplies that you're going to need for this project: a 12 by 18 piece of white paper, that's the one with the yellow dot, your pencil, an eraser, the still life photo that you chose from above, so you might want to just keep that up on your screen when you're working, your worksheets that are in your packet, value scale and shading worksheet, and your sketchbook or sketch paper, okay? Number 1, in your steps, this is your step-by-step process. Number 1, you are going to gather all of your drawing exercises, your base face, your blind contour, your gestures, your positive negative space drawings. They're going to be turned in. You're going to put your name on each page, okay? So just gather them, name on them, sit them next to you because you're going to need to turn these in when you're done, okay? Number 2, complete the value scale and shading worksheets. okay? And this is going to be, I'm going to show you a video of how to do that. I'm going to add that here, okay? So there'll be a video of how to complete those worksheets, you know, what it looks like when it's done, okay? Number 3, choose from one of the photos. Oh, not Miss Herring, Miss Coleman. Choose from one of the photos Miss Coleman gave you. They're above, number 1 and number 2, okay? Take a piece of 8.5 by 11 copy paper or your sketchbook and block in the still life as you see it. So it's just a blocking in step. It should not take you very long at all. Blocking in steps should not take you longer than 10 minutes. If it takes you longer than 10 minutes, you are working too hard, okay? So again, you saw me block in earlier, and there's a video up there that you can watch again if you need to, but that shows how to block in a still life. Once you have your blocking in step done, you are going to show it to me because I just want to see where you're at. This should be something that you should show to me on your progress check appointment, okay? Once you've shown it to me, you can move on to your final paper, all right? Number 6 says, get a piece of 12 by 18 white drawing paper, that's the one with the yellow dot, lightly block in the still life again. This time your goal is to fill the piece of paper up as best you can, okay? I want it so zoomed in that there's not a lot of negative space around the edge. So if your paper is this big, okay, and your still life is this big, that's not gonna work for me. I want your still life to be like this big, okay? All right. Make sure it fits the entire page. Remember the hop, okay? Remember hierarchy, overlap, proportion, okay? Number 7, refine your drawing by putting the exact contours, outline the shapes of each highlight, and add details like labels, words, patterns, and blemishes, okay? Number 8, add local tone. And what that means, I kind of touched on that above, but that means to assign a value to each item using pencil grays according to the actual color, okay? So if you were to look at your still life, what's the darkest thing there? That darkest thing there should be colored with your pencil almost as dark as you can possibly get your pencil to go, okay? What's the lightest thing there? That's where you should use a very light pressure on your pencil to color the whole item in, okay? You're just assigning a gray. This is light gray, this is dark gray, this is really dark gray, this is really, really light, this is white, okay? Number 9, shade the entire drawing. So this is where you add darks and lights. So I've already got this thing colored in gray, okay? I'm gonna go back through and I'm gonna go, oh, this is gray, but this bottom corner is just a little bit darker than the whole entire thing. So I'm gonna color that in a little darker. Oh, there's a shadow right here on this teapot. So I probably need to color that in a little darker, okay? This is where you would do that, okay? Do not forget to shade the background as number 10. In no case is the background white. It is in one picture very pale gray, and the other picture is a little bit darker than that, okay? So you have to remember to do the background and the fabric folds that are in the background. If you don't, you will get points off. Number 11 says complete a critique sheet, just like you did the last project, only the questions are now for this project. Okay, so think about this project when answering them. The critique sheets are always going to be the same sheet. You're just going to be talking about a different project. For grading, I'm going to be grading you out of 100 points. Your drawing exercises are 20 points, so that's the base, face, line contours, the gesture, the positive, negative. Okay. Your blocking in on sketch paper is going to be out of 10 points. Your proportion and placement, 10 points. Your contour, 10 points. Your shading and detail, 20 points. Creativity, 10 points. Your craftsmanship, 10 points. And your final critique, 10 points, okay? When submitting your work, Oh, I forgot to add something here. Put your name on the front of your work, photograph it. Okay. Photograph your drawing exercises and your 2 worksheets. Okay, make sure your name is on all of them. Okay. Number 3, complete a critique sheet. You can either write out your answers on a piece of lined paper, then photograph it. You can use Kami to complete the critique sheet, if you know how, or you can type your answers into a Google Doc and put your name at the top of that. Okay, upload your critique, drawing exercises, and, worksheets, and the photograph of your project to project 2 in Google Classroom. So you're going to have 1, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items. Okay. 6 items to upload. Okay. Just making sure that you knew how many. All right, 6 items to upload, and that is your project for Drawing Story.